welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in September, which amounted to, I believe, 11 books, I think, between audiobooks and physical reads. And I had some really good reads this month that I'm super excited to tell you guys about and give you some good recommendations. I did read a lot of spooky things this month, so I'm excited to give you some recommendations for the Halloween season. And yeah, let's just get right on into it because there's a lot of good books to talk about. The first book that we're going to talk about today is The Lost Village by Camilla Sten. I gave this book a 4 out of 5, and this is a book that I'm going to be doing an in-depth book review with my friend Georgia coming up eventually here. I know I've talked about this so many times that we're going to be doing these book reviews together, and eventually we will. We live really far apart and it's really hard to get together. And the last time we ended up having plans, I ended up having to cancel because my whole family got COVID. So anyways, we are going to be planning to do a couple of these book reviews, and one of them is going to be on this book. And this one I really enjoyed. It had a really spooky vibe. Basically, this book follows Alice, and she is a wannabe documentary filmmaker, and she gathers up this cast of characters, some people that she's known in the past and some people that she has not met before, and they go to this village to make this documentary. This village is basically completely abandoned, but no one knows why. Just basically one day they showed up. One day, outsiders showed up to this village and it was completely abandoned, except with the exception of a crying newborn baby that was found in a school, the only survivor. There was also a woman that was strapped to a pole who had been stoned to death, and that was the only other person that was there. So very mysterious circumstances, and basically they go to this village to try to find out what has happened. Now, this village has basically just been preserved in time, and they are going there. Everything is just like people just got up and left, just got up and walked away. There's still breakfast laid out on counters that's of course moldy after years of, you know, not being cleaned up, and there's just like sweaters just laying there. Like, it's as if people just were in the middle of their day, got up, left their house, didn't take anything with them, and just expected to be back in a few minutes, but they just left. So during this time, while they're there making this documentary, strange things starts to happen. They're trying to figure out what had happened here, where these people went, and they're kind of like getting some clues. They're going through people's homes, they're trying to find what is going on, and they are starting to figure out maybe possibly what had happened here. People start to go missing from their camp. Their equipment ends up being destroyed. They're not too sure whether or not this is something paranormal or what possibly has gone on here. So this one was really well done. I really enjoyed the writing, and I ultimately gave this one a 4 out of 5. It definitely lends spooky vibes. I really like the idea of an abandoned city or an abandoned village. And if you think about it, I mean, there are abandoned villages or cities or towns or whatever throughout the world, and that has always been really interesting to me, just thinking about what happened there and like if it was something, you know, paranormal or whatever. So this one has a good mystery to it. It has a lot of, there's kind of like a cult aspect to it. There's some paranormal aspects to it. There's, you know, people that are severely mentally ill, and the list goes on. So it has a little bit of everything. So the next book that I read is a book by Kevin Decker, and that was 3. This one actually was a reread for me, and I listened to it on audiobook. The first time that I read it physically. The second time I listened to it on audiobook, and basically it's because I had forgotten that I had actually even read it. It was sitting on my TBR shelf, and I picked it up about halfway through. I was like, I think I remember reading this before, and I had just kind of like vague memories of it. But I ended up carrying on with it because I was, like I said, I was listening to it on audiobook, so I just finished it anyways. And I had read it so long ago that I didn't really remember fully what had happened. But I ended up rating this a 3-star, and I'm going to read you the synopsis. It says, Kevin Parson is alone in his car when his cell phone rings. A man calling himself Slater offers a deadly ultimatum. You have exactly 3 minutes to confess your sins to the world. Refuse, and the car you're driving will blow sky high. Then the phone goes dead. Kevin panics. Who would make such a demand? What sin? Yet not sure what else to do, Kevin swerves into a parking lot and runs from his car, just in case. Precisely 3 minutes later, a massive explosion sets his world on a collision course with madness. And that's only the first move in this deadly game. So this one it's so hard for me to say because I did have some memories of the way it played out before. So I don't know if they were genuine memories or if I was guessing what was going to happen. But I will say it does have a pretty good twist that I'm not sure a lot of other people will get. Like I said, I don't know if I got the twist because I remembered it or I just guessed, but but I mean, Ted Dekker is a pretty famous thriller writer, and this is just kind of like a standard thriller from him. It was an average 3 stars, nothing too crazy good about it, but you know, on the average, it was an average thriller. The next book is one that I read on audiobook, and that is The Haunting of Blackwood House by Darcy Coates, and this is the first in a series. And this one I ended up rating a 2 stars, which was kind of unfortunate. But I'm going to read you the synopsis and I'll tell you why I only gave it a 2 stars. So it says, could you survive a week in a haunted house? Mara is the daughter of spiritualists. Her childhood was filled with seances, scam mediums, and talk of ghostly presences. When Mara finally left her family's home, she vowed she will never allow superstition or false religion into her life again. Now she's ready to start over with her fiancé Neil in a world based on rationality and facts. But her past isn't ready to let her go just yet. Mara and Neil purchase Blackwood House, a derelict property outside of town. They're warned about strange occurrences in the crumbling building. Doors open by themselves, voices whisper in the night, bloody handprints appear on the walls, and cold spots linger in the basement where the house's original owner was murdered. But Blackwood was dirt cheap and came with a large plot of overgrown land. Mara loves her new home and disregards the warnings because ghosts aren't real. Or are they? So this one sounds right up my alley. I was super excited to read it because I thought, oh my gosh, if I really enjoy this one, this is going to be a perfect recommendation for a good Halloween story for you guys. But it's got to be the writing that I didn't really like, and not even necessarily the writing, but the character. So I think if you are a person that doesn't necessarily need to identify with the character, then you might enjoy this one more than I did, and this could still be a good recommendation for you. But I found the main character to be very hard to relate to and almost annoying in the fact that she is very extremely independent, but to the point where it's like it's a character flaw. Like there's being independent, which is a good thing, but she's independent to the point where it's just hindering her entire life. She refuses to trust anybody, even her fiance, refuses to let him help at all, and it's just it's such an issue throughout the book that it just becomes an annoyance, and it started to be the thing that I thought about the most while I was listening to it. Is just like, she is so annoying. Like, just let him help you. Like, it doesn't hurt to get help from someone once in a while. And that just became the biggest point in the plot, and I kind of started to like disregard all of the spooky things that were happening because I was just so annoyed by her. So if you are able to kind of look past that, then this could still be a good story for you. Of course, it's about a haunted house, so there's, you know, creepy things that go on. There is a twist in the book that seems to be a little bit easy, I will say that. It's a twist that's just kind of like really like an unbelievable twist, but I gave it a 2. Okay, you guys, so next is a series that I have on I've had on my to be read shelf for forever, and I just have not ever gotten to it because I felt a little bit intimidated by it. And that is the Mortal Instruments series by Cassandra Clare. So I started off with City of Bones, and I have them all, well, not all of them, but I have about half the series in physical copy, but I did listen to it on audiobook, and I found that, I don't know why I was so intimidated by this. I didn't think that it was YA, so it's definitely a little bit easier of a read than what I was expecting. I gave this one a 3. All right, you guys, sorry, it has been a couple of hours. I have had serious temper tantrums with both my kids, and it was just basically a nightmare. So we're gonna try to finish getting through my wrap up here. Usually I film while my baby is having a nap, and he woke up in the middle of this filming, of course, wouldn't go back to bed. So we're gonna try to film with my kids awake, and hopefully they're not too noisy, and hopefully we don't get interrupted. So anyways, Yeah, so I finished book 1 of the Mortal Instruments. And if you have never heard of this series before, I am going to read you the synopsis. But it says, when Clary Frey heads out to the Pandemonium Club in New York City, she hardly expects to witness a murder, much less a murder committed by 3 teenagers covered with odd markings. This is Clary's first meeting with the Shadowhunters, warriors dedicated to ridding the earth of demons and keeping the odd werewolves and vampires in line. It's also her first meeting with gorgeous golden-haired Jace. Within 24 hours, Clary is pulled into Jace's world with a vengeance, when her mother disappears and Clary is attacked by a demon. But why would demons be interested in ordinary mundane like Clary? And how did she suddenly get the sight? The Shadowhunters would like to know. So, sorry you guys, my kids are playing downstairs, you can probably hear them, but, so I ended up giving this one a 3. I like the idea, and I like that this is such a big series. What I didn't like is something that I don't know that I can even fault the book for, and that is that it seems to be like a really immature writing style. The characters are immature, the main character is immature, and the writing style itself is immature, which I didn't like. But that being said, these are books that are aimed at a teenage audience. Now, I read a lot of YA, and I typically don't feel this way about characters and about the writing style in general. Like, I just don't really think I like Cassandra Clare's writing style. So I don't know, I really had a hard time with it. Also, the second thing is that even though I have the physical copies, I did read it on audiobook, and I don't know if I liked the narrator, the person that was like speaking the voice. So I don't know if that had something to do with it as well. I've talked about this many times before, but sometimes the media in which you take in a book can impact how you actually like the book. So possibly for the second one, maybe I'll try actually physically reading it and see if that helps. But I just find the main character to be very whiny, very immature, really annoying. And I find some of the conversations that they have like not to be realistic. Like the things that they say to each other are not things like, it's just not a realistic conversation, and it doesn't have like a realistic flow, I guess is how you would say it. I don't know. Just something about it. Once again, I'm not the target audience for this. These books are wildly successful, so I mean, I think that and it's not like I didn't like it, but I mean, I gave it a 3, but my review would be not normal, would not be of the norm for this series. So I mean, maybe it's just because it's not intended to be for a 30-some-year-old mom. That could be it for sure. But typically I just don't really feel that way about YA, and I don't know, unless maybe I'm growing out of YA. I don't know. Anyway, this was a 3. We're gonna try the second book and see if I like that one. I'm unsure whether or not I'm gonna carry on with the series. If I just kind of keep feeling like meh about it, probably won't, because what's the point? It's a big series, and if I'm just like not loving it, why would I carry on? I don't know. So the next book that I read, I gave a 4 stars to, and it would have been a 5-star, and that is Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the first in a series, and I really did like this book. So literally the only thing that kept me from making this a 5 out of 5 is that it did not feel rooted in its time. So this is set in the 1800s? I don't know, when was Jack the Ripper? It's set in the Jack the Ripper time. And basically it is about Jack the Ripper, and it's about our young protagonist who is a girl trying to break the mold of her time. So she is a teenager, and she is apprenticing underneath her uncle, who is basically an undertaker, I guess. Like, he is the one that does, what's it called? Really, Holly? He does autopsies. There we go. He does autopsies on dead bodies. She's apprenticing under him, and she's learning this science. She's very interested in science. She wants to go to college, and this is the time of life where women are expected to, you know, have an arranged marriage and settle down and have kids, and that's all that they should be thinking about and worrying about is their, you know, their husband and suitors and attending parties and whatnot. But she doesn't feel this way whatsoever. She wants to do more with her life. She wants to be in the field of science. She wants to go to college, and she wants to kind of break the mold, which is not really appropriate in her time period. So, but that being said, this did not feel rooted in its time whatsoever. Just the writing style, I guess, like the thoughts that she's having, the way that the characters speak to each other, it feels very much like just today. And you know, it takes a lot to be able to write to really make the reader feel that they are in that time period. Like, one author that I think does that extremely well is Libba Bray, with her Diviner series. She has the ability to just make you feel as though you are in the 1930s. From everything from the way the characters think, to how they speak, to how they dress, to every single thing. You feel like you just know that you're in the 1930s. With this, I didn't get that. I mean, the way that the characters dress and everything like that, yes, is rooted in that time period. But the way that they speak and the way that they think and the way that they act, not at all. So that was the only thing that made me not give it a 5. But I really, really enjoyed the book, and I can't wait to carry on with the series. The synopsis says, he murdered women in cold blood. He terrorized an entire city. He taunted those of us who hunted him down. But despite all these horrors, in the end, I could not deny it. I was the girl who loved the Ripper. So basically, like I said, our young protagonist, she's apprenticing under her uncle. Her uncle ends up getting accused of these murders. She absolutely knows that it is not him, so she kind of goes on this quest to find out who the Jack the Ripper is. She kind of forms some unlikely allies with some other characters, and it's a really fun story. It's spooky. I just loved it. I loved the story. I loved almost everything about it except for that not rooting thing. But it would have been a 5 if it wasn't for that. So I highly recommend this one. I'm really excited to carry on with the series. So next is a book that I listened to on an audiobook, and that is The Killer You Know by S.R. Masters. And the synopsis for this one says, I'll murder 3 strangers and you'll know it was me. That way we'll all be connected, always. When Will jokes about becoming a serial killer, his friends just laugh it off. But Adeline can't help but feel that there's something more sinister lurking behind his words. 15 years later, Adeline returns to Blythe for a reunion of the old gang, except Will doesn't show up. Reminiscing about old times, they look up the details of his supposed murder spree. But the mood soon changes when they discover 2 recent deaths that match. As the group attempt to track Will down, they realize that he is playing a sinister game that harks back to one they used to play as kids. Only this time there are lives at stake. So this is one that I ended up giving a 4 to. It was really kind of cool. It was definitely a different kind of premise. I've been reading a lot of books lately about, you know, high school reunions and that sort of thing, and this is definitely one of those. So, you know, this group of friends have lost touch with each other over the years. They come back together for a reunion and they're just reminiscing. They realize that their one friend, Will, never ended up showing up to this reunion, and he was kind of always the odd man out, even when they were younger. Like, he was just kind of strange, and they all just kind of seemed to just put up with him being in the group, but nobody really seemed to like him. And he was just like one of those odd sort of characters, and he had made a joke when they were, you know, back in high school, saying that that's how everybody's going to remember him is because he's going to be a serial killer. He's going to make at least 3 murders, and they'll all know that it was him. He gives these stipulations for these murders, and that's how they're going to know that it was him. And they're just kind of joking about this, but then they end up realizing that there's, you know, some murders that fit the bill for this, and they start trying to track him down and see where he's at, what's going on with him, to see if it's possible that this could really be true, because he was the type of guy that maybe this could be true. So and they kind of go on this, I don't want to say adventure, it's not like a fun adventure whatsoever, but they're trying to figure out if he could be the killer. They run into him, and, you know, things ensue from there. But I did like it. It was a good thriller. It was unexpected. There was an unexpected twist that a lot of people probably won't get. And I give it a 4 out of 5. So next is a book by Joseph Fink called The Halloween Moon. I gave this one a 3 out of 5. I'm definitely out of the age range for this book. I just wanted something kind of fun and silly and Halloweenish. This is more of a middle grade book. But the synopsis says, Esther Gold loves Halloween more than anything in the world, so she is determined to go trick-or-treating again this year, despite the fact that her parents think she's officially too old. Esther has it all planned out, from her costume to her candy collecting strategy. But when the night rolls around, something feels off. No one is answering their door. The moon is an unnatural shade of orange. Strange children wander the streets wearing creepy costumes that might not be costumes at all. And it seems like the only people besides Esther who are awake to see it all are her best friend, her school bully, and her grown-up next-door neighbor. Together, this unlikely crew must find a way to lift the curse that has been placed upon their small town before it is too late. Because someone is out to make sure Halloween never comes to an end. And even Esther doesn't want to be trapped in this night forever. So this was a really, really fun read. Like I said, I am out of its age range. That's probably why I ended up giving it the 3. But it's a really fun, kind of like spooky but not too spooky book for the Halloween season. So definitely recommend this one if you are wanting to pick up something a little bit lighter, not too crazy, not too scary for Halloween. This is definitely a good one for you. So next is a thriller by Lisa Jewell called Watching You. I gave this one a 4 out of 5. And it says, Melville Heights is one of the nicest neighborhoods in Bristol, England, home to doctors and lawyers and old money academics. It's not the sort of place where people are brutally murdered in their own kitchens, but it is the sort of place where everyone has a secret, and everyone is watching you. As the headmaster, credited with turning around the local school, Tom Fitzwilliam, is beloved by one and all, including Joey Mullen, his new neighbor, who quickly develops an intense infatuation with this thoroughly charming yet unavailable man. Joey thinks her crush is a secret, but Tom's teenage son Freddie, a prodigy with aspirations of becoming a spy for the M15, excels in observing people, has witnessed Joey behaving strangely around his father. One of Tom's students, Jenna Tripp, also lives on the same street, and she's not convinced her teacher is as squeaky clean as he seems. For one thing, he's taken a particular liking to her best friend and fellow classmate, and Jenna's mother, whose mental health has admittedly been deteriorating in recent years. She's convinced that Mr. Fitzwilliam is stalking her. Meanwhile, 20 years earlier, a schoolgirl writes in her diary charting her doomed obsession with a handsome young English teacher named Mr. Fitzwilliam. So this one definitely is spooky. It has, lots of stalkerish vibes on a whole bunch of different levels. So it's kind of like this person stalking this person, and this person stalking this person, and this person stalking this person. It's kind of like a web of stalking that you're kind of trying to sift through. And there becomes quite a twist at the end that I certainly did not see coming. So I really enjoyed this one. Lisa Jewell is quite a famous thriller author. I've only ever read one of her books before. This is my second one. And I did like it. I think that the twist is surprising. And it was definitely a different sort of premise for a book. Next is another very popular thriller author, and that is Lucy Foley's The Paris Apartment. This one I was really surprised that I didn't like as much as I thought I would. I gave it a 3 out of 5, mostly because I kind of found it to be boring after a while. Like, it really dragged. The pace was off. It was really slow paced. If you're a person that likes a slow burn thriller, then this one would be for you. I don't particularly like that. I need a little bit more action, and I find like I can start losing interest. And that's how I start to get myself into a reading slump. If something's just like too slow paced and it's taking too long to sift through, I get myself into a reading slump. Jess needs a fresh start. She's broken alone and she's left her job under less than ideal circumstances. Her half-brother Ben didn't sound thrilled when she asked if she could crash with him for a bit, but he didn't say no, and surely everything will look better from Paris. Only when she shows up to find a very nice apartment, could Ben really have afforded this? He's not there. The longer Ben stays missing, the more Jess starts to dig into her brother's situation and the more questions she has. Ben's neighbors are an eclectic bunch and are not particularly friendly. Jess may have come to Paris to escape her past, but it's starting to look like it's Ben's future that's in question. The socialite, the nice guy, the alcoholic, the girl on the verge, the concierge. Everyone's a neighbor, everyone's a suspect, and everyone knows something they're not telling. So I ended up giving this one a 3, but I actually almost did DNF this in the beginning because it was getting to the point where it was like boring, and I was like, I don't even care what happened to this guy. I don't care where he is. His sister's just, going off trying to find him, and there came a point where I didn't care anymore. I'm like, don't care what happened to him. So I almost DNF'd it. There were definitely some twists and turns near the end that did make me happy that I carried on with it. But yeah, overall it was an average thriller. If you like a slow burner, you'll probably like this one. Okay, the second to last book that we're gonna talk about is one that I really liked. I gave this one a 5 stars, and that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I really enjoyed this one. I love kind of more of a historical fiction. This one was set in the 1930s, I believe. And it says, after receiving a frantic letter from her newlywed cousin begging for someone to save her from a mysterious doom, Noemi Tabodoa heads to High Place, a distant house in the Mexican countryside. She's not sure what she'll find. Her cousin's husband, a handsome Englishman, is a stranger, and Noemi knows little about the region. Noemi is also an unlikely rescuer. She's a glamorous debutante, and her chic gowns and perfect red lipstick are more suited for cocktail parties than amateur sleuthing. But she's also tough and smart with an indomitable will, and she's not afraid. Not of her cousin's new husband, who's both menacing and alluring. Not of his father, the ancient patriarch who seems to be fascinated by Noemi. And not even the house itself, which begins to invade Noemi's dreams with visions of blood and doom. Her only ally in this inhospitable abode is the family's youngest son. Shy and gentle, he seems to want to help Noemi, but might also be hiding a dark knowledge of his family's past. For there are many secrets behind the walls of High Place. The family's once colossal wealth and fated mining empire kept them from prying eyes. But as Noemi digs deeper, she unearths stories of violence and madness. And Noemi, mesmerized by the terrifying yet seductive world of High Place, may soon find it impossible to ever leave this enigmatic house behind. So if you guys know me, you know that I am a sucker for a haunted house story. And this one was no different. I really enjoyed it. I love the atmosphere of this story. Our author did a really good job of creating a spooky atmosphere in this haunted house with a family that seems really off. Like, you're just not sure what's going on with them. Who is the bad guy? Who's the good guy? Whose side you should be on? Who you should trust? Noemi's basically there to find out if her cousin is okay. Her cousin had written this letter to home basically begging for help, but when she gets there, her cousin's like, no, I'm fine. I just was, sick and not feeling well. And she's, laid up in bed and she has to rest a lot, and Noemi doesn't get to spend a lot of time with her, but she's just sure that something is off, but she can't quite pinpoint what. So she's trying to find out what is really going on with her cousin, because she doesn't necessarily believe that her cousin is fine, even though she's saying, I'm fine. But things just start to get creepier and creepier with this house right off the bat. There's weird things about this house that starts to happen, and just like I said, it's a very atmospheric story, and you just kind of feel like it's just eerie. There is the twists and turns towards the end. Like the story kind of starts to take on a otherworldly sort of almost unbelievable. Yeah, I guess. It kind of goes in an unbelievable direction. It goes in a direction that I definitely wasn't expecting. And it's just kind of a strange sort of turn. So I wasn't 100% happy with the ending or the twist that it took. I would have liked for it to stay more of like a paranormal story, and it just kind of started to go off in a different direction. I don't want to say too much more without giving it away. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I gave it a 4 out of 5, and I really liked it. So next, I think this is the last book. Yeah, this is the last book we're going to talk about, and that is The Lighthouse Switches by C.J. Cook. This is my final read of the month, and I gave it a 5 out of 5, and I really, really liked it. You guys know that I love a witchy read. You guys just know that about me. I love witches, and that's just, especially this time of year, I love reading witchy books. And this one really did a really good job. When single mother Liv is commissioned to paint a mural in a 100-year-old lighthouse on a remote Scottish island, it's an opportunity to start over with her 3 daughters, Luna, Sapphire, and Clover. Like, talk about perfect witches' names. When 2 of her daughters go missing, she's frantic. She learns that the cave beneath the lighthouse was once a prison for women accused of witchcraft. The locals warn her about wildlings, supernatural beings who mimic human children, created by witches for revenge. Liv is told wildlings are dangerous and must be killed. 22 years later, Luna has been searching for her missing sisters and mother. When she receives a call about her youngest sister, Clover, she's initially ecstatic. Clover is the sister she remembers, except she's still 7 years old, the age she was when she vanished. Luna is worried Clover is a wildling. Luna has few memories of her time on the island, but she'll have to return to find the truth of what happened to her family. She doesn't realize just how much the truth will change her. This one ended up once again going off in a direction that I did not expect whatsoever. I thought it was going to be more of like a paranormal story, and it took a turn that was not that whatsoever, but I really did enjoy it. This one ended up making me cry. I love the fact, I loved the story about the mother and the 3 daughters, and you know, just like being there for each other, and it was creepy. I really wanted to find out what was going on with this wildling, and whether or not that was really like a magical thing or what was possibly going on with that. So that just really kept me on the hook and kept me wanting to figure out what was happening. It was a good paced read. I really enjoyed it, and it's perfect for spooky season. All right, you guys, so those are the 11 books that I read in September. I really, really hope that you guys decide to pick up some of them. Let me know in the comments down below which ones sound interesting to you. And of course, also what you read this last month. I'd love to know that too. I love it when you guys leave me suggestions. I'm going to be doing a vlog coming up where I'm going to be reading some of your guys' suggestions, because I always get tons of book recommendations from you guys. So I am going to be starting work on that video soon. So leave me some recommendations in the comments down below. And if you have not done yet and you do enjoy my videos, I would love it if you'd go ahead and hit the subscribe button on your way out. I hope you guys are having an awesome day, and I'll see you in my next video. My kids are now coming up the stairs, so this is perfect timing. Bye!